On her first day at the renowned hospital, Amelia Jackson steps into a world where her skills are overlooked and her identity mistaken. But when a life hangs in the balance, will her untapped potential break through the barriers that surround her? Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let us know where you're watching from. Let's dive in. Amelia Jackson stood outside the grand entrance of the hospital, her heart pounding with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The sun cast a warm glow on the modern glass facade, reflecting the bustling energy within. She adjusted the strap of her bag on her shoulder and smoothed out an imaginary wrinkle on her pristine white uniform. Today marked the beginning of a new chapter in her life, a chance to make a difference in a place renowned for medical excellence. Taking a deep breath, she stepped through the sliding doors into the atrium. The lobby was a hive of activity. Doctors in white coats hurried past, nurses consulted charts, and visitors moved about, with bouquets and balloons in hand. The air was filled with the faint scent of antiseptic mixed with fresh coffee from the cafe tucked into a corner. Amelia made her way to the reception desk, where a young woman with a friendly smile greeted her. "Good morning. How can I help you?" "Good morning," Amelia replied, her voice steady. "I'm Amelia Jackson, the new registered nurse starting on the surgical floor today." The receptionist tapped on her keyboard. "Ah, yes. Welcome to our team, Amelia. You'll want to head to the 4th floor. The nurse manager's office is just to the right as you exit the elevators." "Thank you," Amelia said, offering a warm smile before heading toward the bank of elevators. As she waited, she couldn't help but notice the art adorning the walls, a collection of photographs capturing moments of healing and hope. One image in particular caught her eye, a group of diverse healthcare professionals standing together, symbolizing unity and collaboration. It resonated with her aspirations. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime, and she stepped inside alongside a few other staff members. She felt a few curious glances, but dismissed them as mere curiosity about the newcomer. Exiting on the 4th floor, she found herself in a bustling corridor, lined with patient rooms and medical equipment humming softly. Amelia approached the nurse manager's office and knocked gently. A voice invited her in. Behind the desk sat Mrs. Thompson, a woman with sharp features softened by kind eyes. "Ah, you must be Amelia Jackson," Mrs. Thompson said, standing up to shake her hand. "Welcome aboard. We're excited to have you join our team." "Thank you. I'm eager to get started," Amelia replied earnestly. They spent the next half hour going over protocols, schedules, and introductions to key team members. Mrs. Thompson concluded with a tour of the floor, pointing out essential areas: the medication room, supply closets, and staff lounge. As they walked, Amelia couldn't help but notice the subtle glances from some of the staff. She brushed it off, attributing it to first-day nerves. They arrived at the nurses' station, where Mrs. Thompson introduced her to a group of nurses reviewing patient charts. "Everyone, this is Amelia Jackson, our new RN," Mrs. Thompson announced. A few offered polite smiles and nods. One of them, a tall woman with silver-framed glasses named Karen, extended her hand. "Welcome, Amelia. Let me know if you need anything." "Thank you. I appreciate it," Amelia replied. Mrs. Thompson was called away, leaving Amelia to acquaint herself with her new environment. She began reviewing the patient assignments for the day, immersing herself in the charts to familiarize herself with their cases. "Excuse me," a voice interrupted her concentration. She looked up to see a man in scrubs holding a clipboard. "Could you help with cleaning up a spill in room 12? Amelia blinked, slightly taken aback. "Oh, I'm actually a registered nurse, but I can notify housekeeping for you." He seemed surprised. "Oh, my apologies. I just assumed." "It's all right," she said with a small smile, though she felt a twinge of discomfort. The day progressed, and Amelia threw herself into her work. She assisted with patient care, administered medications, and collaborated with physical therapists. Her interactions with patients were warm and compassionate, earning her appreciative smiles and heartfelt thanks. In the late afternoon, as she was updating a patient's chart, she overheard a conversation between two nurses nearby. "Did you see the new aide they hired?" one whispered. "You mean the one who thinks she's a nurse?" The other chuckled softly. Amelia felt her cheeks flush but kept her eyes on the chart. She took a deep breath, reminding herself why she was here. As her shift neared its end, she headed to the staff lounge for a brief respite. The room was modest, with a few tables, chairs, and a kitchenette. A television in the corner played a news channel on low volume. She poured herself a cup of tea, hoping it would soothe her nerves. "Mind if I join you?" a voice asked. She looked up to see Karen, the nurse who had welcomed her earlier. "Not at all," Amelia replied. Karen sat down across from her. "How was your first day?" "It was good. Busy, but that's to be expected," Amelia said, choosing her words carefully. Karen gave her a sympathetic look. "I know it can be challenging starting in a new place. If there's anything you need, don't hesitate to ask." "Thank you. I appreciate your kindness," Amelia said sincerely. After a moment of silence, Karen added, "I hope you don't mind me saying, but sometimes people here can be set in their ways. Don't let it get to you." Amelia met her gaze. "I won't. I'm here to do my job to the best of my ability." "That's the spirit," Karen said with an encouraging smile. Feeling a bit more at ease, Amelia finished her tea and prepared to wrap up her shift. She spent the next few days acclimating to the hospital's routines, always punctual and meticulous in her duties. Yet, the subtle misunderstandings continued. More than once, she was handed tasks typically assigned to support staff, requests to fetch linens, directions to storage rooms, small incidents that collectively weighed on her. One morning, as she reviewed patient care plans, a doctor approached the nurse's station. Without looking up, he handed her a stack of files. "I need these organized and filed away." Amelia looked at the files, then back at him. "Certainly, I'll make sure they're taken care of," she replied, deciding it was easier to handle it herself than to explain. As she filed the documents, she overheard two doctors discussing a complex surgical case nearby. Intrigued, she listened in, considering the possible nursing interventions that would support the patient's recovery. "Excuse me," she interjected politely. "Have you considered the patient's history of hypertension in your post-operative plan? It might affect their response to certain medications." The doctors paused, glancing at her with mild surprise. One of them replied, "Thank you, but we'll handle it." She nodded, feeling a mix of frustration and resignation. Later that day, Amelia assisted with preparing a patient for surgery. She double-checked the patient's identification, allergies, and consent forms, ensuring everything was in order. Her attention to detail did not go unnoticed by the anesthesiologist. "You're thorough," he commented. "I believe it's important to be meticulous, especially in these situations," she replied. He gave a nod of approval. "We need more nurses like you." Buoyed by the compliment, Amelia felt a renewed sense of purpose. However, the challenges persisted. During a team meeting, she presented a suggestion to improve patient handoff communication. The room fell silent for a moment before the conversation shifted, her idea left unacknowledged. As the days turned into weeks, Amelia grappled with a growing sense of isolation. She questioned whether she should address the situation directly or continue to let her work speak for itself. One evening, she called her mentor from nursing school, Mrs. Patel. "I just don't understand," Amelia confided over the phone. "No matter how hard I try, I feel like I'm invisible to them." Mrs. Patel's voice was gentle yet firm. "Amelia, you are a skilled and compassionate nurse. Unfortunately, sometimes people let their biases cloud their judgment. But remember, you are there for the patients. Keep doing your best, and eventually, they will see your worth." "I hope so," Amelia sighed. "It's just disheartening." "Hang in there, dear. Change doesn't happen overnight." Encouraged by her mentor's words, Amelia resolved to persevere. She continued to provide exceptional care, often staying late to ensure her patients were comfortable and their needs met. Her dedication began to catch the attention of a few colleagues, but for the most part, the barriers remained. One afternoon, as she was leaving the hospital, she noticed a janitor struggling with a large cart of cleaning supplies. Without hesitation, she walked over to help. "Thank you," he said gratefully. Not everyone would stop to lend a hand. She smiled. "We all have to look out for each other." As she walked to her car, she reflected on the irony of the situation. Despite being mistaken for support staff herself, she held deep respect for everyone who contributed to the hospital's mission. That night, Amelia penned her thoughts in a journal she kept tucked away in her bedside drawer. Writing had always been a solace for her, a way to process her experiences and reaffirm her goals. Today was challenging, she wrote. But I am reminded that compassion is not limited to a job title or uniform. I will continue to lead by example, even if others cannot see past their assumptions. Closing the journal, she prepared for bed, determined to face whatever the next day would bring with grace and resilience. As the weeks went on, a subtle shift began to occur. A few staff members started to acknowledge her contributions. A surgeon thanked her for her detailed preoperative assessments. A patient's family praised her attentiveness to their loved one's needs, small victories that reignited her passion. One day, Mrs. Thompson approached her with a smile. "Amelia, I'd like you to mentor one of our new nurses. She's just graduated and could benefit from your experience." Surprised yet pleased, Amelia agreed. "Of course, I'd be happy to help." Perhaps, she thought, this was the beginning of a change, a slow but meaningful progression toward recognition and inclusion. Unbeknownst to her, an event was on the horizon that would not only test her skills but also redefine her place within the hospital community. Amelia's first week at the hospital unfolded like a complex tapestry woven with threads of enthusiasm and subtle disappointment. Each morning, she arrived early, her uniform immaculate and her spirit buoyant. She was determined to immerse herself in her new environment, to learn the protocols, and to become an integral part of the team. However, the reality she faced was not what she had anticipated. On her second day, Amelia entered the bustling ward, ready to take on her assignments. As she reviewed the patient list, she noticed a case that piqued her interest, a middle-aged man recovering from a complicated surgery. She had extensive experience with such cases and felt she could contribute valuable insights. Eager to discuss the patient's care plan, she approached Dr. Mitchell, the physician in charge. "Good morning, Dr. Mitchell," she began politely. "I was reviewing Mr. Thompson's chart and noticed his blood pressure has been fluctuating significantly overnight. I have some experience managing post-operative hypertension and thought we might consider adjusting his medication." Dr. Mitchell glanced up briefly from his tablet. "Thank you, but the medical team has it under control," he replied before turning away to speak with another doctor. Amelia stood there momentarily, the dismissal stinging more than she expected. She reminded herself that building trust takes time, and resolved not to let the encounter dampen her spirits. After all, she was new, and perhaps they needed to see her skills in action before valuing her input. Later that day, while administering medications, she noticed that Mrs. Garcia, an elderly patient with a history of diabetes, appeared unusually lethargic. Concerned, Amelia checked her blood sugar levels and found them alarmingly low. "Mrs. Garcia, how are you feeling?" Amelia asked gently. "I'm just a bit tired, dear," the woman replied weakly. Amelia knew immediate action was required. She alerted the charge nurse, expecting support. "Nurse Collins, Mrs. Garcia's blood sugar is critically low. We need to adjust her insulin dosage and provide glucose," Amelia reported. Nurse Collins glanced at the chart. "Are you sure you conducted the test properly?" she questioned. "Yes, I double-checked the readings," Amelia affirmed. "I'll look into it when I have a moment," Collins replied dismissively. Recognizing the urgency, Amelia couldn't wait. She prepared a glucose solution and administered it to Mrs. Garcia, carefully monitoring her vital signs. Gradually, the patient's condition improved. An hour later, Nurse Collins approached Amelia. "I saw you took initiative with Mrs. Garcia. Next time, wait for instructions before making adjustments," she said curtly. Amelia met her gaze steadily. "I understand protocol, but given the critical nature of her condition, immediate action was necessary to prevent a hypoglycemic episode." Collins pursed her lips. "Just be careful," she muttered before walking away. The interaction left Amelia feeling both frustrated and perplexed. She had acted in the patient's best interest, yet her initiative seemed unwelcome. Was she overstepping boundaries, or was there something else at play? Determined not to dwell on negativity, Amelia focused on her patients, who responded warmly to her attentive care. Mr. Jenkins, a jovial man recovering from knee surgery, often regaled her with stories of his youth. "You remind me of my granddaughter," he told her one afternoon. "She's smart and doesn't let anyone tell her she can't do something." Amelia smiled. "She sounds like a remarkable young woman." "She is, and so are you," he replied with a wink. Buoyed by such interactions, Amelia tried to engage more with her colleagues. During a lunch break, she joined a group of nurses discussing weekend plans. "So anyone have recommendations for good restaurants nearby?" Amelia inquired, hoping to spark conversation. The nurses exchanged glances. One of them, Lisa, shrugged. "Depends on what you like," she said noncommittally. "I'm open to anything, really. I enjoy trying different cuisines," Amelia responded. "Well, we usually go to places with reservations already made," another nurse added, her tone implying exclusivity. Feeling the subtle brush-off, Amelia nodded politely. "I see. Well, if you think of any suggestions, let me know." She retreated to a quiet corner of the lounge, her lunch suddenly less appetizing. The isolation was more profound than she anticipated. It wasn't just that they were unfamiliar with her, it felt as though they were deliberately keeping her at arm's length. That evening, as she documented her shift notes, she overheard a conversation between two doctors at the nurses' station. "The new equipment for the cardiac unit arrives next week," one said. "Finally. Maybe now we can implement the updated procedures," the other replied. Amelia had trained extensively with similar equipment at her previous hospital. Seizing the opportunity, she approached them. "Excuse me, I couldn't help but overhear. I have experience with that cardiac equipment and would be happy to assist with the transition," she offered. The doctors exchanged a quick glance. "Thank you, but we'll manage," one of them replied before they continued their discussion out of earshot. Amelia felt a familiar pang of rejection. She began to question whether her contributions would ever be welcomed. Seeking solace, she decided to call her friend Marcus, a fellow nurse she'd met during a medical conference. "Hey Amelia, how's the new job treating you?" Marcus's cheerful voice greeted her. "Honestly, it's been tougher than I expected," she admitted. "I feel like I'm invisible to my colleagues, or worse, an inconvenience." "That sounds frustrating. Do you think it's because you're new?" "I've been new before, but this feels different. It's like they don't trust my competence, and I can't figure out why," she said, her voice tinged with exasperation. "Give it some time. Sometimes people need a while to warm up. Just keep being your professional self, and they'll come around," Marcus advised. "Thanks for listening. It helps to talk about it," she said appreciatively. The next day, determined to break through the barriers, Amelia arrived early to attend a departmental meeting. The agenda included updates on patient care protocols and an open forum for suggestions. She saw this as an opportunity to share her ideas. During the discussion on reducing patient readmission rates, Amelia raised her hand. "I've found that thorough patient education before discharge significantly reduces readmissions. Perhaps we could implement a standardized teaching protocol," she proposed. The room was silent for a moment before Dr. Williams, the department head, responded. "That's an interesting point. We've considered similar measures in the past." He then moved on without further acknowledgement of her suggestion. Amelia's cheeks flushed, but she maintained her composure. After the meeting, she approached Dr. Williams. "Dr. Williams, I'd be happy to provide more details on the patient education protocols I've used successfully," she offered. He glanced at her briefly. "Perhaps another time. We're quite busy at the moment," he replied before walking away. Feeling disheartened, Amelia retreated to the break room. Karen, the kind nurse who had shown her some friendliness, noticed her somber expression. "Rough meeting?" Karen asked gently. "You could say that," Amelia sighed. "I tried to contribute, but it didn't seem to matter." Karen nodded knowingly. "I wish I could say I'm surprised, but this place can be challenging." "Why is that?" "I just want to be part of the team," Amelia said, her frustration evident. Karen hesitated before responding. "Some people here have a hard time embracing newcomers, especially those who bring fresh perspectives." Amelia looked at her thoughtfully. "Do you think it's just that, or is there more to it?" Karen glanced around to ensure they were alone. "Look, I don't want to discourage you, but there are underlying biases that influence how some staff interact with others." "You mean because I'm—" Amelia trailed off. Karen gave a sympathetic nod. "You're qualified and capable, but sometimes that's overshadowed by factors that shouldn't matter." Amelia absorbed the implication. It wasn't a new concept to her, but she had hoped that in a professional environment, merit would prevail over prejudice. "Thank you for being honest with me," she said softly. "Don't let it deter you. You have allies here, and your dedication doesn't go unnoticed by everyone," Karen reassured her. Feeling a mixture of gratitude and resignation, Amelia decided to focus even more intently on her patients. Over the next few days, she went above and beyond to ensure their comfort and well-being. She spent extra time listening to their concerns, explaining procedures, and providing emotional support. One evening, as she was adjusting the pillows for Mrs. Turner, a woman recovering from heart surgery, the patient grasped her hand. "You're an angel, my dear. You make me feel safe," Mrs. Turner said, her eyes moist with gratitude. "Just doing my job, Mrs. Turner. Is there anything else I can do for you?" Amelia asked kindly. "Just keep being you," the woman replied. Moments like these reinforced Amelia's purpose. Despite the challenges with her colleagues, she was making a tangible difference in her patients' lives. The following day, Amelia noticed a flyer on the bulletin board announcing a training session for a new electronic health record system. Recognizing that proficiency at the training, she quickly grasped the functionalities and even assisted others who were struggling. "Thanks, I was completely lost," a fellow nurse admitted after Amelia helped her navigate the system. "Happy to help. It's actually quite user-friendly once you get the hang of it," Amelia replied. Her willingness to assist began to chip away at some colleagues' reservations. A few started to approach her with questions or to collaborate on patient care tasks. However, not everyone was receptive. During a shift change, Amelia provided a detailed handoff report to the incoming nurse, highlighting critical information about a patient's allergic reactions. "I've got it," the nurse interrupted impatiently. "You don't need to go over every little detail." Amelia stood her ground. "I believe it's important to communicate all pertinent information to ensure patient safety." The nurse rolled her eyes but said nothing further. That night, as Amelia prepared to leave, she found a note in her locker. "Stop trying so hard. Know your place." Her heart sank. The anonymous message was a stark reminder that not everyone welcomed her presence or contributions. Clutching the note, she contemplated her next steps. Reporting it might escalate tensions, but ignoring it could embolden the perpetrator. Weighing her options, she decided to speak with Mrs. Thompson. Knocking on the nurse manager's door, she was invited in. "Amelia, what can I do for you?" Mrs. Thompson asked. "I received this note in my locker," Amelia said, handing it over. "I'm concerned about the hostility it implies." Mrs. Thompson read the note, her expression turning serious. "This is unacceptable. Do you have any idea who might have written it?" "No, but I felt it was important to bring it to your attention," Amelia replied. "Thank you for informing me. I'll address this matter discreetly," Mrs. Thompson assured her. "Meanwhile, please don't let this discourage you. You're a valued member of our team." Amelia appreciated the supportive words, but wondered how much would actually change. Leaving the office, she resolved not to let intimidation deter her from her commitment to excellence. She reminded herself of the patients who depended on her and the professional standards she upheld. The next few days passed without incident. Amelia continued her diligent work, and there was a subtle shift in the atmosphere. Whether due to Mrs. Thompson's intervention or her colleagues observing her steadfastness, some of the hostility seemed to wane. One afternoon, Dr. Patel, a respected physician known for his fair-mindedness, approached her. "Amelia, I've noticed your attentive care with the patients, particularly with those requiring complex wound management," he said. "Thank you, Dr. Patel. I strive to provide the best care possible," she replied. "I'd like to invite you to join our wound care committee. Your expertise would be valuable," he offered. Surprised but pleased, Amelia accepted. "I'd be honored to contribute." This invitation signaled a significant breakthrough. Participation in the committee would allow her to collaborate more closely with a multidisciplinary team, showcasing her skills and potentially influencing positive change. At the committee meeting, Amelia shared her experiences and proposed evidence-based strategies to improve wound healing outcomes. Her ideas were met with interest and appreciation. "These recommendations are practical and patient-centered," Dr. Patel remarked. "Let's work on implementing them." Feeling a renewed sense of purpose, Amelia left the meeting hopeful that her efforts were making a difference. However, not all were pleased with her growing involvement. In the staff lounge, she overheard a conversation. "She's just trying to make herself look good," one nurse scoffed. "Yeah, suddenly she's on the committee, acting like she's better than us." Another agreed. Amelia chose not to engage, reminding herself that acceptance from everyone was unrealistic. Instead, she focused on building alliances with those who valued her contributions. One evening, as she was preparing to leave, Karen caught up with her. "Heading home?" Karen asked. "Yes, finally. It's been a long day," Amelia replied. "I wanted to tell you that I admire how you're handling everything. It can't be easy," Karen said sincerely. "Thank you. Your support means a lot," Amelia responded. "Maybe we could grab coffee sometime," Karen suggested. "I'd like that," Amelia agreed, grateful for the budding friendship. As she walked to her car, Amelia reflected on the ups and downs of the past weeks. While challenges remained, she felt a shift, not just in how some colleagues perceived her, but in her own confidence. She recalled a phrase her grandmother used to say, "Keep planting seeds, and eventually something beautiful will grow." Amelia smiled, hopeful that her perseverance was starting to cultivate a more inclusive and collaborative environment. Little did she know, an impending crisis would soon put her skills and resolve to the ultimate test, offering an opportunity to bridge divides and prove that dedication and compassion transcend barriers. The hospital corridors were bathed in the soft glow of evening lights, casting elongated shadows that stretched across the polished floors. It was the start of Amelia's night shift, a time she had grown to appreciate for its relative calm. The daytime hustle subsided, replaced by a quieter rhythm that allowed her to focus more intently on her patients. Amelia was at the nurse's station, meticulously organizing patient charts and updating medical records. The soft hum of monitors and occasional distant chatter created a soothing backdrop. She glanced at the clock, 9:45 p.m. Most of her patients were resting, and she planned to do her rounds shortly. As she reviewed Mr. Thompson's chart, a patient recovering from knee surgery, an alarm pierced the tranquility. It was the unmistakable sound of a cardiac monitor signaling distress. Her eyes darted to the central monitoring system, and her heart skipped a beat. Room 27, Mr. Reynolds, was exhibiting ventricular tachycardia, a dangerously fast heart rhythm. Amelia sprang into action. "Code blue, room 217, she called out, her voice echoing down the hallway. She grabbed the emergency crash cart stationed nearby and rushed toward Mr. Reynolds' room. Bursting through the door, she found Mr. Reynolds pale and unresponsive, his chest rising and falling erratically. The monitors confirmed her fears. His heart rate was skyrocketing, and his blood pressure was plummeting. "Mr. Reynolds, can you hear me?" she asked urgently, tapping his shoulder. There was no response. Amelia activated the room's emergency button to summon additional help, but the indicator light remained unlit. She remembered hearing earlier that maintenance was scheduled for the hospital's communication system overnight. "Not now," she muttered under her breath. She quickly assessed his airway, breathing, and circulation. Time was critical. Alone, she began performing chest compressions, counting aloud to maintain the proper rhythm. 1, 2, 3. Moments later, Peter, a junior nurse on his first month of duty, appeared at the doorway, his eyes wide with alarm. "I heard the alarm. What can I do?" he stammered. "Peter, I need you to grab the backboard and help me position Mr. Reynolds for defibrillation," Amelia instructed, her tone calm yet authoritative. He nodded and retrieved the backboard from the crash cart. Together, they carefully maneuvered it under Mr. Reynolds. Amelia prepared the defibrillator pads, her hands steady. "Charging to 200 joules, she announced. "Clear." She delivered the first shock, watching the monitor for any sign of normal rhythm. The ventricular tachycardia persisted. "Charging to 300 joules, clear." Another shock. Still no change. By now, a small team had gathered outside the room, drawn by the commotion. Among them was Dr. Sinclair, a resident physician known for his strict adherence to protocol. "What's going on here?" Dr. Sinclair demanded, stepping into the room. "Mr. Reynolds went into ventricular tachycardia. The emergency call system is down, and I initiated resuscitation," Amelia reported without pausing her compressions. Dr. Sinclair glanced at the monitor. "You should have waited for a physician," he chastised. Amelia met his gaze briefly. "With all due respect, sir, waiting wasn't an option. He's in cardiac arrest." He seemed taken aback by her assertiveness, but didn't argue further. "Continue compressions. I'll intubate," he conceded. As Dr. Sinclair prepared the intubation equipment, Amelia felt a surge of relief that help had arrived. but she remained focused on Mr. Reynolds. "Peter, prepare an epinephrine injection," she instructed. Peter hesitated, glancing at Dr. Sinclair for approval. "Do as she says, Dr. Fa," Sinclair affirmed, now fully engaged in the emergency. Amelia continued the compressions, sweat forming on her brow. Time seemed to blur as they worked in unison, a synchronized effort to save a life. After administering the epinephrine, they paused CPR to check the monitor. A moment of silence hung in the air as they watched the erratic lines stabilize into a steady rhythm. "We've got a pulse," Amelia announced, her voice tinged with cautious optimism. Mr. Reynolds' eyelids fluttered and he let out a weak groan. Relief washed over the team. "Good work," Dr. Sinclair admitted grudgingly. "Let's get him to the ICU for further monitoring." As they prepared to transfer Mr. Reynolds, Dr. Patel, the attending physician, arrived. "I was informed of a code blue. Status update?" Dr. Patel asked. Amelia provided a concise summary. "Mr. Reynolds experienced ventricular tachycardia leading to cardiac arrest. We initiated CPR, delivered defibrillation shocks at 200 and 300 joules, administered epinephrine, and restored a stable rhythm." Dr. Patel nodded appreciatively. "Excellent job. Your prompt actions made a significant difference." Dr. Sinclair shifted uncomfortably. "Yes, though protocol was adjusted." "Protocol serves the patient, not the other way around," Dr. Patel responded firmly. "In emergencies, decisive action is paramount." As Mr. Reynolds was wheeled away, Amelia took a moment to steady herself. The adrenaline was ebbing, leaving her both exhausted and exhilarated. Peter approached her, his expression a mix of awe and gratitude. "Amelia, I don't know how you stayed so composed. You saved his life." She offered a modest smile. "We saved his life. You did great back there." He shook his head. "I was lost until you took charge. Thank you for guiding me." "Anytime, Peter. Emergencies can be overwhelming, but teamwork makes all the difference," she assured him. Word of the successful resuscitation spread quickly through the hospital. Back at the nurses' station, several colleagues regarded Amelia with newfound respect. Even those who had previously kept their distance now seemed intrigued. Later that night, as she updated Mr. Reynolds' chart, Karen approached her. "Amelia, I heard about what happened. That was incredible," Karen said warmly. "Thank you. It was a team effort." Amelia replied, "Don't be so humble. Taking charge like that isn't easy, especially when others hesitate," Karen insisted. Amelia shrugged lightly. "I just did what needed to be done." Karen leaned in slightly. "You know, people are starting to see you differently. Maybe this is the turning point." "Perhaps," Amelia said thoughtfully. "But it's not about me. It's about providing the best care for our patients." "Spoken like a true professional," Karen agreed. As her shift drew to a close, Amelia decided to check on Mr. Reynolds in the ICU. She found him resting, his vital signs stable. A sense of relief settled over her. "You're quite the hero tonight," came a voice from behind. She turned to see Dr. Patel entering the room. "Just doing my job," she replied. He smiled. "It's more than that. Your quick thinking and leadership made all the difference. We're fortunate to have you on our team." "Thank you, Dr. Patel. That means a lot," she said sincerely. "Have you ever considered specializing in critical care? You have a knack for it," he suggested. Amelia pondered the idea. "I haven't given it much thought, but I'm open to exploring it." "Well, if you're interested, I'd be happy to mentor you," Dr. Patel offered. "I appreciate that. I'll definitely consider it," she replied, feeling a spark of excitement at the prospect. Leaving the ICU, Amelia felt a renewed sense of purpose. The night's events had not only reaffirmed her capabilities, but also began to shift perceptions among her colleagues. The following day, during the staff briefing, Dr. Patel recounted the emergency. "I'd like to acknowledge the exemplary performance of Nurse Amelia Jackson," he announced. Her decisive actions during Mr. Reynolds' cardiac arrest were instrumental in saving his life. This is a reminder of the critical role that each member of our team plays in patient care. There was a round of applause. Amelia felt a mix of pride and humility as she nodded in acknowledgement. Dr. Mitchell, who had often been dismissive of her, approached her after the meeting. "Good work last night," he said tersely. "Thank you," she replied, sensing a subtle shift in his demeanor. Even Dr. Sinclair offered a nod. "Perhaps I was too quick to judge. Your initiative was commendable," he admitted. "I appreciate that," Amelia responded, recognizing the significance of his words. As the days progressed, Amelia noticed more openness from her colleagues. They began to include her in discussions, seek her input on patient care, and even invite her to join them during breaks. One afternoon, while reviewing patient files, she was approached by Lisa, one of the nurses who had previously been distant. "Amelia, a few of us are grabbing dinner after our shift. Would you like to join?" Lisa asked. Surprised but pleased, Amelia smiled. "I'd love to. Thanks for inviting me." At the restaurant, the conversation flowed easily. They shared stories, laughed over anecdotes, and for the first time, Amelia felt a genuine sense of belonging. "You know," Lisa said between bites, "I misjudged you. I'm sorry about that." "It's okay. First impressions can be misleading," Amelia replied graciously. "You're not only a skilled nurse, but also a great person to have around," Lisa added. "Thank you. That means a lot," Amelia said, feeling a warmth spread through her. Back at work, Amelia continued to excel. She collaborated on a project to improve emergency response protocols, drawing from her recent experience. The initiative was well received and implemented across the department. One evening, she received an unexpected visitor. Mrs. Reynolds stood at the nurse's station, clutching a bouquet of flowers. "Are you Nurse Amelia?" she asked. "Yes, I am," Amelia replied. "These are for you," Mrs. Reynolds said, handing her the flowers. "My husband told me how you saved his life. Words can't express our gratitude." Touched, Amelia accepted the bouquet. "I'm so glad he's doing better. That's all the thanks I need." "You're a blessing," Mrs. Reynolds said sincerely before taking her leave. As Amelia placed the flowers in a vase, her colleagues gathered around. "Well deserved," Karen commented. "Looks like you're becoming quite the star around here." Peter teased good-naturedly. Amelia laughed softly. "I'm just part of a team." "Maybe, but you're the part that keeps us all going," Karen insisted. Reflecting on her journey, Amelia realized that the barriers she had faced were beginning to crumble. Through perseverance, professionalism, and compassion, she had not only proven her capabilities, but also forged meaningful connections. One night, as she walked through the quiet corridors, she encountered Dr. Patel once more. "Amelia, have you thought about our conversation regarding critical care specialization?" he inquired. "I have," she replied. "And I'd like to pursue it." "Excellent. We'll set up a meeting to discuss the next steps," he said with a satisfied nod. As she continued down the hallway, Amelia felt a sense of fulfillment. The path ahead was filled with new opportunities and challenges, but she was ready. The emergency with Mr. Reynolds had been a turning point, not just in earning her colleagues' respect, but also in reaffirming her own confidence. She had navigated the storm and emerged stronger. Amelia paused by a window overlooking the city lights. The view was breathtaking, a mosaic of flickering luminescence against the dark canvas of night. It reminded her that even in the darkest moments, there is light to be found. Her phone buzzed with a message from her mentor, Mrs. Patel. "Heard about your heroic deed. Proud of you." Amelia smiled, typing back, "Thank you for believing in me." Pocketing her phone, she took a deep breath, savoring the moment. The journey had been arduous, but she had remained true to herself. And in doing so, she had begun to transform not only her own experience but also the culture around her. As she resumed her rounds, Amelia knew that challenges would continue to arise. But with each step, she was forging a path, not just for herself, but for others who would follow. She was not just a nurse. She was a catalyst for change, a beacon of resilience and hope. And her story was far from over. The sun cast a golden hue over the hospital as Amelia arrived for her shift, the warmth of the morning light mirroring her renewed optimism. The events of the past few days had shifted the atmosphere noticeably. Colleagues who once overlooked her now greeted her with nods and smiles. The successful resuscitation of Mr. Reynolds had not only saved a life but also illuminated Amelia's competence and dedication. As she entered the staff lounge to store her belongings, she found a handwritten note pinned to her locker. "Thank you for inspiring us." It was unsigned, but the gesture filled her with a sense of belonging she hadn't felt before. She carefully placed the note inside her locker, a small token of encouragement to carry with her. The morning briefing was underway when she joined her team. Mrs. Thompson, the nurse manager, was discussing upcoming changes to hospital policies and the implementation of new patient care initiatives. Lastly, Mrs. Thompson announced, We are forming a committee to enhance our community outreach programs. These programs are essential for preventive care and building trust with the public. I'd like Amelia to lead this effort, given her recent contributions and fresh perspectives. Amelia looked up, pleasantly surprised. I'd be honored to take on this role, she replied, her voice steady despite the flutter of excitement she felt. Excellent. We'll discuss the details after the meeting, Mrs. Thompson said with an approving nod. As the team dispersed, Amelia couldn't help but notice a mix of reactions. Some colleagues offered congratulatory smiles, while others appeared indifferent. She reminded herself that change often came gradually and resolved to focus on the task ahead. Later that day, she met with Mrs. Thompson to discuss the outreach program. The initiative aimed to provide basic health screenings and educational workshops in underserved neighborhoods. We need someone who can coordinate between different departments and engage with the community effectively, Mrs. Thompson explained. Your ability to connect with people and your organizational skills make you the ideal candidate. Thank you for trusting me with this responsibility, Amelia replied. I have some ideas on how we can make the program more accessible and impactful. That's what I was hoping to hear, Mrs. Thompson said with a smile. Let's schedule a meeting with the department heads to outline your proposal. Amelia spent the next few days immersing herself in planning. She researched community health statistics, identified key areas of need, and reached out to local organizations for potential partnerships. Her evenings were filled with drafting proposals and creating presentations. One afternoon, as she was finalizing her plans in the staff lounge, Peter approached her. Working hard, I see, he remarked, peering over her shoulder. Just trying to get everything ready for the meeting tomorrow, she replied, glancing up with a smile. Do you need any help? I have some free time, and I'd like to be involved if possible, he offered. Actually, that would be great. I'm putting together a team, and your enthusiasm would be a valuable addition, Amelia said appreciatively. Count me in, Peter affirmed. Let me know what I can do. Their collaboration attracted the attention of other staff members. Soon, a small but dedicated group formed, each bringing unique skills to the project. Karen joined to coordinate volunteer schedules, while Lisa offered to handle communications and publicity. As the day of the proposal presentation arrived, Amelia felt a mix of nerves and confidence. The conference room filled with department heads and key stakeholders, all awaiting her presentation. Dr. Patel gave her an encouraging nod from across the room. She began her presentation by highlighting the hospital's mission and the importance of community engagement. Using data and personal anecdotes, she painted a vivid picture of the current challenges and the potential impact of their outreach program. Our goal is not just to provide medical services, Amelia emphasized, but to build lasting relationships that empower individuals to take charge of their health. As she concluded, the room erupted in applause. Dr. Williams, who had previously been dismissive, stood up to speak. Amelia, this is an impressive and well-thought-out proposal, he acknowledged. Your plan aligns perfectly with our objectives, and I support moving forward with it. Thank you, Dr. Williams, she replied, grateful for his endorsement. Mrs. Thompson addressed the group. With unanimous support, we'll proceed as outlined. Amelia, you'll have the full backing of the hospital's resources. After the meeting, Dr. Patel approached her. You continue to impress, Amelia. Your leadership is exactly what we need. Thank you for your support, she said. I couldn't have done it without the team's contributions. Over the following weeks, Amelia and her team dove into the implementation phase. They organized health fairs, arranged for mobile clinics, and developed educational materials tailored to the community's needs. The program quickly gained momentum, drawing positive attention from both the public and the media. One Saturday morning, the team set up a health fair in a local park. Tents were arranged for various services: blood pressure checks, diabetes screenings, nutrition counseling, and more. The atmosphere was lively, with families strolling through, children laughing, and a sense of community camaraderie. Amelia moved from station to station, ensuring everything ran smoothly. At the nutrition tent, she noticed a young mother struggling to calm her restless toddler. May I help? Amelia offered, kneeling to the child's eye level. He's just a bit overwhelmed, the mother sighed. I wanted to learn more about healthy meals, but I might have to come back another time. No need to leave, Amelia assured her. We have activity kits for children. Let me grab one. She returned with a colorful bag filled with crayons, coloring books, and small toys. The child's eyes lit up as he explored the contents. Thank you so much, the mother said, relief evident in her voice. This means a lot. It's our pleasure. We're here to support you in any way we can, Amelia replied warmly. As the day progressed, countless interactions like this unfolded. The team's efforts were making a tangible difference, and the gratitude from the community was palpable. At the end of the event, the team gathered to debrief. The exhaustion was overshadowed by a sense of accomplishment. Today's turnout exceeded our expectations, Lisa reported. We served over 300 individuals. That's fantastic, Amelia said, her eyes reflecting her enthusiasm. Everyone's hard work truly paid off. Peter raised a hand. I think a round of applause is in order for Amelia's leadership. The team cheered, and Amelia felt a flush of humility and joy. Thank you, but this was a collective effort. I'm proud of what we've achieved together. Back at the hospital, the success of the outreach program was the talk of the corridors. Administration took notice, and plans were made to expand the initiative to other areas. One afternoon, as Amelia was reviewing patient charts, she received a call from the hospital director's office requesting a meeting. She arrived promptly, curious about the summons. Amelia, please have a seat. The director greeted her kindly. First, let me congratulate you on the outstanding success of the community outreach program. Thank you, she replied, taking a seat across from him. Your work has not only enhanced our reputation, but also fulfilled a critical need in the community, he continued. We'd like to offer you the position of Community Health Coordinator, a role that would allow you to continue and expand this important work. Amelia was momentarily speechless. I'm honored by the offer, she managed to say. However, I want to ensure that I can still maintain direct patient care. Nursing is at the core of who I am. Of course, the director agreed. We can structure the role to balance both responsibilities. Your hands-on experience is invaluable. She considered the opportunity, recognizing the potential to make an even greater impact. In that case, I accept, she said with a confident smile. Excellent. We'll work out the details and make an official announcement soon, he concluded. Leaving the meeting, Amelia felt a surge of excitement. The path ahead was filled with possibilities, and she was eager to embrace them. As word spread about her new role, she received a flurry of congratulations. Even those who had been hesitant to acknowledge her before now seemed genuinely pleased. That evening, the team gathered at a local cafe to celebrate. The atmosphere was festive, with laughter and clinking glasses. To Amelia, our fearless leader, Peter toasted, raising his glass. Here, here, the group echoed. Thank you all, Amelia said, touched by their support. This accomplishment belongs to each of you. Together, we've shown what can be achieved when we unite our talents and passion. Karen leaned over. You know, you've really changed things around here, she said. People are more collaborative, more open. I've noticed that too, Amelia replied thoughtfully. It's amazing what can happen when we focus on common goals. As the evening wound down, Amelia took a moment to reflect. The journey from feeling isolated and underestimated to leading meaningful change had been transformative. She realized that by staying true to her values and persevering despite challenges, she had not only grown personally, but had also influenced those around her. Returning home, she settled into her favorite chair and opened her journal. Flipping to a fresh page, she began to write. Today marks a significant milestone. The path hasn't been easy, but every obstacle has taught me resilience and empathy. I've learned that leadership isn't about authority, but about inspiring and uplifting others. I'm grateful for the support and for the opportunity to make a difference. She paused, considering her next thoughts. There's still much to do, and I know challenges will arise, but I feel ready to face them, not alone, but with a team that believes in our shared mission. Closing the journal, Amelia felt a profound sense of peace. The road ahead was bright, illuminated by the collective efforts of those committed to positive change. The next morning, she arrived at the hospital with a renewed sense of purpose. The familiar surroundings now felt different, more welcoming, more alive with possibilities. As she made her way to the nurse's station, she was greeted by Dr. Williams. "Good morning, Amelia," he said with a genuine smile. "I was hoping to discuss collaborating on a patient education initiative." "Absolutely," she replied. "I'd be happy to contribute." Their conversation flowed easily, a testament to the shifting dynamics within the hospital. Throughout the day, Amelia engaged with patients, colleagues, and administrators, bridging gaps and fostering connections. Her role as community health coordinator allowed her to weave together the threads of clinical care and community engagement, creating a tapestry of holistic health promotion. In a quiet moment between tasks, she received a text message from her mentor, Mrs. Patel. "Heard about your new role. So proud of you. Keep shining." Amelia replied, "Thank you for always believing in me. Your guidance has been invaluable." As the day concluded, she took a moment to stand by the large windows overlooking the city. The sunset painted the sky with hues of orange and pink, a vibrant backdrop to the bustling world below. She thought about the journey, the challenges faced, the victories won, and the relationships built. Rising to the occasion had not just been about a single moment of heroism, but about consistently choosing to lead with integrity and compassion. Amelia knew that her story was still unfolding, each chapter building upon the last. With a heart full of gratitude and determination, she was ready to embrace whatever came next, confident in her ability to make a lasting difference. Amelia stood at the threshold of the hospital auditorium, her heart fluttering with a mix of anticipation and humility. The grand hall was abuzz with chatter as staff members found their seats for the annual award ceremony. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, casting a warm glow over the assembled crowd. Banners adorned the walls, each emblazoned with the hospital's mission: compassion, excellence, integrity. She adjusted the collar of her dress uniform, the fabric crisp and comforting. It was hard to believe how much had changed since she first walked these halls. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside, greeted by a wave of familiar faces, some smiling warmly, others nodding respectfully. "Amelia? Over here?" Karen waved from a table near the front, where Peter and a few other colleagues were seated. Their expressions radiated excitement. "Didn't think you'd miss this, did you?" Peter teased as she joined them. "I wouldn't dream of it," Amelia replied with a grin, taking a seat. The air was electric with expectation. The ceremony commenced with speeches from department heads, each highlighting the year's achievements. Dr. Patel took the stage, his voice resonating with pride as he spoke about advancements in patient care and community outreach. "And now," he announced, "it's time to honor individuals who have gone above and beyond in their dedication to our mission." Amelia listened attentively as awards were presented for various accomplishments. Then, Mrs. Thompson approached the podium, her eyes scanning the audience. "This year, we have a special recognition," she began. "This individual has not only demonstrated exceptional skill and leadership, but has also transformed our hospital community through unwavering commitment and compassion." Amelia felt her pulse quicken. She glanced at Karen, who gave her a knowing smile. "Please join me in congratulating Nurse Amelia Jackson as the recipient of the Excellence in Leadership Award." Applause erupted, filling the auditorium. Amelia's breath caught as she rose to her feet, a wave of emotion washing over her. She made her way to the stage, the faces of her colleagues reflecting admiration and respect. "Thank you," she began, accepting the award plaque from Mrs. Thompson. The weight of it was both physical and symbolic. "I'm deeply honored by this recognition." She paused, collecting her thoughts. "When I first joined this hospital, I faced challenges that tested my resolve. But through those experiences, I discovered the true essence of our profession: the power of unity, empathy, and perseverance." Her gaze swept across the room. "This award is not just mine. It's a testament to the incredible team I have the privilege of working with every day. Together, we've shown that when we support one another and embrace our shared purpose, we can overcome any obstacle." Returning to her seat amidst a standing ovation, Amelia felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The journey had been arduous, but moments like this affirmed every step taken. After the ceremony, the courtyard transformed into a reception area. String lights twinkled overhead as colleagues mingled, sharing congratulations and stories. Amelia found herself surrounded by well-wishers. "Amelia, your speech was inspiring. Dr. Patel said, approaching with a sincere smile. You embody the values we strive for. Thank you, Dr. Patel. Your guidance has meant so much to me, she replied warmly. Dr. Williams stepped forward, extending his hand. I owe you an apology, he began earnestly. I didn't see your potential at first, and that was my failing. You've proven to be an exceptional leader. Amelia accepted his handshake. I appreciate your words. It's never too late to start anew. As the evening progressed, she shared laughter and memories with her colleagues. The barriers that once stood between them had dissolved, replaced by genuine camaraderie. Hey, Amelia, Peter called out, holding up a camera. Group photo. They gathered together, arms around each other, as the flash captured the moment, a snapshot of unity and achievement. The next day, Amelia returned to her duties with renewed energy. She met with her team to discuss the expansion of the community outreach program. Our mentorship initiative has been a success, she announced. But I believe we can do more. Let's develop workshops that address mental health awareness and resources. That's a fantastic idea, Karen agreed. There's a real need for that in the community. They delved into planning, their synergy palpable. The program had grown beyond their initial expectations, touching countless lives. One afternoon, Amelia received a call from Jasmine, her mentee. I got accepted into the nursing program, Jasmine exclaimed, her excitement palpable through the phone. That's wonderful news, Amelia replied, her heart swelling with pride. I knew you could do it. Thank you for believing in me, Jasmine said sincerely. I couldn't have done it without your support. You had it within you all along, Amelia assured her. I'm just glad I could be part of your journey. The mentorship program continued to flourish, inspiring both students and staff. Amelia recognized that fostering the growth of others was one of the most rewarding aspects of her role. As weeks turned into months, the hospital thrived under the collective efforts of its staff. Patient satisfaction soared, and the workplace culture became one of inclusivity and mutual respect. One evening, as Amelia was organizing files, Mrs. Thompson entered her office. Do you have a moment? She asked. Of course, Amelia replied, setting aside her work. I wanted to discuss an opportunity with you, Mrs. Thompson began. With my upcoming retirement, the position of nurse manager will be vacant. The administration and I believe you are the ideal candidate to step into this role. Amelia was momentarily speechless. I'm honored, she finally said. This is a significant responsibility. We have full confidence in your abilities, Mrs. Thompson assured her. You've demonstrated exceptional leadership and have the respect of the entire staff. After thoughtful consideration, Amelia accepted the promotion. The transition was met with enthusiasm from her colleagues, who celebrated her advancement. On her first day as nurse manager, she addressed the nursing staff. Standing before them in the conference room, she felt a mixture of humility and determination. Thank you all for your support, she began. I'm grateful for the opportunity to lead such a dedicated team. Together, we've accomplished so much, and I believe our potential is limitless. She continued, my vision is to cultivate an environment where every voice is heard and every contribution is valued. Let's continue to innovate, to learn from one another, and to provide the highest standard of care for our patients. Applause filled the room, and Amelia felt the weight of her new role settle comfortably on her shoulders. In the days that followed, she worked closely with staff to implement new initiatives aimed at enhancing patient care and staff development. Open-door policies encouraged dialogue, and regular workshops fostered professional growth. One day, as she walked through the pediatric ward, she noticed a young patient, Lily, gazing sadly out the window. Amelia approached gently. Hi, Lily. What's on your mind? She asked softly. I'm missing school, the little girl replied. I was supposed to be in the school play. Amelia's heart went out to her. That must be hard, she sympathized. Tell you what, how about we bring the play here? Lily's eyes lit up. Really? Absolutely, Amelia affirmed. We can organize a small performance right here in the hospital. She coordinated with the staff in Lily's school, arranging for her classmates to visit and perform excerpts of the play. The event brought joy not only to Lily but to other patients and staff as well. Thank you, Lily's mother said tearfully afterward. You've made a difficult time so much brighter for us. Moments like these are why we do what we do, Amelia replied, her smile reflecting genuine contentment. As time passed, Amelia continued to champion initiatives that prioritized patient experience and staff well-being. Her leadership style, characterized by empathy and collaboration, set a tone that permeated the hospital culture. One evening, she received a letter addressed to her office. Opening it, she read, "Dear Amelia, I wanted to express my deepest gratitude for the impact you've had on my life. As your former patient, I witnessed firsthand the difference that compassion and dedication make. You've inspired me to pursue a career in nursing, and I hope to one day make a difference as you have. With heartfelt thanks, Emily." Amelia sat back, moved by the words. It was a reminder of the ripples one person's actions could create. Reflecting on her journey, she realized that every challenge had shaped her into the leader she had become. The initial struggles, the moments of doubt, they had all been integral parts of her story. One night, she visited the hospital's rooftop garden, a serene space overlooking the city's skyline. The twinkling lights stretched out before her, a tapestry of endless possibilities. Karen joined her, 2 steaming cups in hand. "Thought you might like some tea," she offered. "Perfect timing," Amelia replied, accepting the cup gratefully. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. "You've come a long way," Karen mused. "Do you ever think about that first day?" Amelia smiled softly. "I do. It feels like a lifetime ago." "I remember how some people underestimated you," Karen continued, "but you never let it deter you." "It wasn't easy," Amelia admitted, "but I learned that believing in myself was the first step, and having allies like you made all the difference." "Well, the hospital is a better place because of you," Karen said sincerely. "Thank you," Amelia replied, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "But there's still so much more I want to accomplish." She shared her ideas about expanding the mentorship program, enhancing staff training, and developing community partnerships. "You never stop, do you?" Karen teased affectionately. Amelia chuckled. "There's a world of needs out there. If we have the ability to help, shouldn't we?" Karen raised her cup. "To making a difference." "To making a difference," Amelia echoed, clinking her cup against Karen's. As they stood under the night sky, Amelia felt a profound sense of purpose. She was exactly where she was meant to be, doing work that resonated deeply within her. Her journey had taught her that challenges are opportunities in disguise, that resilience is born from adversity, and that true leadership is about lifting others up. Returning to her office, she penned a note to herself. "Remember this moment. The path ahead will have its own obstacles, but with courage and compassion, there is nothing we cannot overcome." Placing the note in her desk drawer, she felt ready to face whatever the future held. Amelia's story was not just her own. It was intertwined with the lives of those she touched. Together, they were building a legacy of excellence, one act of kindness at a time. As she prepared to leave for the night, the hospital corridors echoed softly with the sounds of healing and hope. Amelia walked with confidence, knowing that she was part of something greater than herself. A community united by a shared commitment to care, compassion, and the unwavering belief that one person can indeed make a difference. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this story, don't miss the next one. Click on the video now to watch. We appreciate your support, and we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments.